At some point, every leader has to ask themselves, am I actually leading people or just managing outcomes? Today's guest, Neli, realized that coaching wasn't just a skill, it was a difference between control and connection. Welcome to this session of Tech Talent Talk. We are your hosts, Oliver and Birgit. We have this series of events to bridge the gap between recruiting and engineering. Oliver, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Oliver and I'm doing sustainable recruitment.
And I'm Birgit. I work as a leadership coach and engineering leader. I advise people about creating high-performing teams through culture. As I said, today's guest is Neli Petkova. And the topic is the coaching leader. Neli is the founder of EvolveTalent and a passionate advocate for people-first hiring and leadership. With over 15 years of experience in executive search, talent consulting, and leadership and career coaching across Europe, she supports companies in the STEM, biotech, and digital industries to build high-performing, value-driven teams. Neli integrates coaching methodologies into recruitment and leadership development processes, empowering both organizations and individuals to grow with purpose. Neli, I have a question. What was the moment you realized that coaching wasn't just a soft skill, but a leadership superpower?
Thank you, Birgit and Oli, for the invitation. Hello, everyone. It's really great to be today here with you. It is a long story for me. The very first experience when I used to work in an international company in HR in the past, it was just at the beginning when the coaching was emerging between 2007 around and 8. So I had a leader who was a little bit distant, and he used to a little bit neglect the team, so he didn't communicate really well. But later on, he had access to coaching, so this really changed the game and the way he communicated with us. I felt really listened to, and for me, this was a kind of transformation from, let's say, from black to white. So this is at least how I felt. And this was the beginning of later on, I told myself I would like to explore this thing that made him to be a better leader. And I want to motivate people. And through my, let's say, career later, I started as a coach. I have also trained different coaches. So I participated in mentorship. So through the time, I realized that coaching is really evolving human potential. And this is how I made the connection with leadership. And it's also for me. I do my best to be a better leader.
That reminds me also of the question, what is leadership for you?
It's evolving others, helping others to evolve and to bring the humanity in a better way, like just making things better for others. So this is how I feel.
Right, we have different styles of leadership. We see the authoritarian leadership rises very quickly, but we have definitely benefited from the lateral leadership a lot, and also from the coaching leadership style, where we basically where the leader is basically in the back of the room and tries to not to push, but to motivate people into the front and let them bring up their ideas, right? Why would we still, in the rise of authoritarian leadership, why would we still need to have the coaching leadership style?
There is always a balance, I believe. Like when there is on one side, there is a rise of a little bit more of authority in regards of leadership. On the other hand side, the people also need people who, let's say, brighten their hearts for better purpose. So there will be always a balance. When there is a little bit more from one thing, there is always someone is pulling to the other. But also from a perspective of when there is uncertainty in the world, people they're in search of something which is bringing better future for others. They're in search of their own personal development, or to evolve themselves, to achieve better as people and also as a society. So this is something that I see as emerging in the world, and therefore we need leaders who are supporting this part of people development as well. Of course, combination to management and just bringing also the, let's say, the future of humanity.
right?
I think that's a quite complex question to ask.
Absolutely.
Why authoritarian leadership is rising. And I feel whatever you say, or like I'm not looking at you in particular, Neli, but I feel it's extremely challenging to ask such a question and to provide an answer that is sufficient. What you have just said, I could already feel that I wanted to slightly disagree, but what I actually wanted to do is adding something,
Yes.
not disagreeing. I think one of the partial answers, at least, would be that in a world that seems to get faster and more complex, people demand answers, and they sometimes fall for simplistic answers. This is what a lot of authoritarian leaders or populism provides: simple answers. It's not necessarily providing a better future for, I don't know, children, but it's answers, and answers, I think, are also part of guideline and direction. It doesn't really mean that people agree to these directions or to the answers, but there's something said, and something very complex is broken down to a very short, simple answer. You might not like them, but I think it's ultimately it's lack of leadership itself that leads to authoritarian leaders.
Oli, thank you very much. It's actually really very much supporting the idea, is because there is always this kind of, let's say, balance. But when the people also are afraid, there is this, let's say, people have the needs to survive and to go forward and to achieve, like not only just to achieve and to go for a better future, they're a little bit more stuck in the survival side. So just there is this fear of, let's say, AI, or fear of also, let's say, some political changes. So there are so many things like during these times. And as you said, people need answers, and people need really someone to quickly have a shortcut to until they are getting where they want to, just do a little bit more to a safety net. And maybe this is, it's a very complex question, and it's amazing that we are rising at the very beginning. Because if I can just maybe share like something very quickly, is we as a human has different levels of psychological development, and we have different needs. So just it's also based on the Maslow pyramids, and the upper side. So we have survival, of course, connection to others. We need to achieve, of course, our goals. To study, to have a job, and so on. And after that, usually on the top, there is self-actualization. And this is the self-actualization according to the methodology that I use. So this is a Barrett model. The self-actualization has 4 different more levels. And this is where exactly this is the untapped human potential, where when the people are stuck somewhere and then they're in the fearful modes, or of course, like, it really depends on the society, on the human. We have different moments in our life, but at the same time, we also have this untapped potential. And this is where I believe that we need leaders who are just bringing the human potential on the top. So just people who are just going on the self-actualization side.
I find it really nice that you bring up the pyramid, because like as a leader, you can systematically see where the human state is, like where the basic need is, and try to bring the human up to the next level, meaning also the team to the next level, right? And it doesn't end there. And you're right, it doesn't end there. Once you have reached the top level, there's actually some more. I can tell you much more about this. I still need to read about it, but it's not the end.
Yeah.
End.
Exactly.
It gets exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. And when we speak also about teams, like it's a living organism, like a team is a part of different people, and everyone has their own needs and their own psychology and values and everything. But like a team is like a new organism, made up from different people. And so this is really amazing to observe and just to notice in others.
What I would like to add here, the original question was, why is coaching a leadership superpower?
Yeah.
I think in the times we are living in, and this is a phrase that was always true, that always worked, I feel to develop people, this is all nice, but in order to develop people and to be developed by someone else, people need some kind of safety and stability. And I think this, as a leadership superpower, shouldn't be underestimated, because from my perspective, it's the solid ground to provide that makes development of people and organizations actually possible. Without providing such stability, we can talk much about development and all that stuff. It won't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this one as well, Oli. This is
the way it I can totally agree. The way it works, like how you can prevent development, is like when people's minds are always like thinking about what could go wrong, who could hurt me, who doesn't find me okay, and stuff like that. And all of those fears, and also unconscious triggers, basically need to be addressed, so that you have a human that is ready basically for the next step, right? And this can be, it can be short trip, with someone who is easy going, but can also be a long trip to do. And Ollie is right, it needs to have a stable environment. And what does it mean? What does a stable environment mean? It doesn't need to mean that it shouldn't change. We have a very changing environment. Maybe, Oliver, you want to add something to this?
Just as a few words, because you used the term stable. Stable doesn't mean static. And I think this is very important to understand. Lots of people were talking about stable environments. They always hope for environments not to change, but this is impossible. This would be static. What makes it stable is that everyone in an organization knows, as we would say in Germany, where's left and where's right, what is okay and what's not, what's expected from you and from others. This is what can provide the stable ground, plus
clarity,
of course.
Yeah.
And some other nice values that one can add, right? But it's still a changing environment, and this is why I wanted to have Oliver to interrupt me, because I saw him coming out. So the changing environment, and doesn't mean that also shouldn't change slowly, because if you have a stable environment, or also a safe environment, you also have the ability to change quickly, right? The values are very important, such as transparency, good communication, and etc., right?
Yeah, it's amazing. And I wanted to share the metaphor of the mountain. This is one of my favorite metaphors, which is related on one side to psychological safety and also to leadership. And it's just to be the mountain for people and to bring the mountain to people. So it means regardless of what we have, for instance, or whatever problem, we know that the mountain is there, and we can always attend and just know that we can always lean on the mountain on one side. And then it also brings psychological safety. It's just, of course, the stability, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't evolve. For instance, there is a forest in the mountain which is growing. It's just and it is adapting and everything. So I really like this metaphor of when we speak about psychological safety. And also, but still, when it comes to the coaching style and in general, like the leadership style, it's the best to have the space for the people to express themselves and to share if they have specific fears. And as Birgit, as you mentioned, for some people can be very short to trip because some people are more talkative and share. But also to have to express any concerns, to be open if there is a mistake. Is just I believe mistakes are important to be shared because they also bring innovation. And it is really it is great to have this mentality to support when it comes to pure coaching or to the leadership, to have the mentality of having space for the others to express themselves, to feel safe, to feel supported, but also to have the opportunity to grow step by step, or just to explore their strengths and development.
This
What I want to add here, and then we can maybe become more specific, nearly the visualization that you have used, the mountain. One key element of mountains is actually its predictability. Because a mountain is like they're barely moving. And this predictability is one factor in psychological safety. Predictability can mean you know what's expected from you and from others, what's behavior that is supported and not. And right the opposite, and this destroys psychological fear then, is uncertainty. I don't know what to do, what's right and what's wrong. And this is, if this uncertainty rises, fear rises, and then you demand such easy answers. You demand lots of mountains, so to say.
Yeah. It's a very good explanation.
And I think the coaching leader can help handle this. And before we go further into details, let's also ask ourselves, what is coaching actually? Neli, do you have an idea?
The coaching helps people to find the answers in themselves. And when we speak about like comparison to mentorship, this is the mentorship is the answers are given from outside. Like, I mean, this is usually the person who has more experience than the other is giving the right answers, whereas the coaching supports others to find their own answers. And the beauty is really in that coaching helps people to connect to their values, to understand their strengths better. They see their potentially blind spots, limitations, and everything. And then they find their own answers about when they're on a crossroads. They connect people to connect to themselves better in order to understand the right way to do something. And in uncertainty, this is where coaching helps amazingly well, is to support others to find based on their values, and of course to have the certainty in themselves, to find the certainty and just to develop the certainty in others. Great about coaching as an approach. It develops own intuition and own understanding about what's right and wrong.
And this is also where my next question would be coming in. I know we have talked about why is it important to be coaching now, right? Maybe we find some more answers. So why is sharing the perspective on coaching so important to you right now? So this is what I would like to know. And also, what is at stake if we don't talk about this? So, but also if we wouldn't be coaching.
I'm terrible host today. I love to interrupt. Like, I feel I have more interrupted in this session than in all the other sessions combined. I want to add my 2 cents on coaching. And I love to explain the meaning of words through its history. I think this is the only thing that counts. The rest, we don't give a fuck about the present or the future. So what is coaching? Actually, it's
back to that question. Okay.
The coach is, from the original meaning of the word, there's nothing with training or leadership or development or education or people. The only thing that a coach or coaching is a wagon with 4 wheels. That's a coach, like a bus. This is why if you look into the Americas, a coach is always a bus. It's not the actual person that we refer as a coach to. This is a fairly new meaning. So coaching means you get from A to B through time and the road. So it is a journey of its own. And the coach, in the meaning of an instructor, is a relatively new thing. It's barely 200 years old. So to see someone guiding you from A to B, letting you grow and not just, teaching you physics or whatsoever, is a fairly new thing. It's like with the word management. What is management actually? If you ask 10 people what management is, you get 10 different answers. But management, from the meaning of its words, it's a school. It's the menagerie in French, the school to learn how to ride a horse. So management is not just allocation of resources, it's training someone to do the job. I feel that's a meaning lots of managers might have forgotten. Because then it's also linked to the coaches.
By the way, I have never gotten a clear answer of what strategy is.
What strategy is? Yeah. I think if you would look into lots of different cultures, you would get also different answers.
Yeah, exactly.
There are cultures, especially in Asia, the Chinese, for example, they have terms for even higher levels of strategy we in the West don't even understand. We don't even have words for this.
But
strategy
anyway,
is a small thing compared to what in the Chinese culture is possible to think or to plan.
Yeah. Anyway, I think this is a very interesting topic to know where the meaning of those words are coming from. But I do believe that the current meaning, as language evolves, the current meaning is also very important. It is also true for all of those words in the scientific matter. They are changing, right? And for every year, you will have a different definition for a certain word, and the students have to learn it.
I cannot. It's really amazing that we explore this, let's say, different origins of the words, like how I know that the latest coaching has been developed from the coach, the word coach related to sport coaching, and because the coaches were actually training the people to achieve better when it comes to certain sport. Later on in the United States, it has been used for executives, for high executives. So it just turned to executive coaching, and this is how it started. So this is the history that I know about. And this is usually that they say, like, it started actually from executive coachings because they wanted to support executives to achieve better, like compared to a sport. But later it has developed, and how coaching is done now, it has developed. The International Coaching Federation has changed there also let's say, the skill set and their competences, and they have evolved the competences like through the years. So this is something that is changing. Like it is also an evolving term, and let's say methodology combining many aspects.
Exactly.
So it's very interesting to let's say see how it comes, how it came to our world, and like now what happens now and what will happen in the future. Maybe.
I guess there are like for several words we have some overlappings, but also some differences and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Shall we come to the next question? Like I still want to know, like, if we didn't talk about like why is coaching as a soft skill a superpower, but why, like, what would happen if we don't talk about this?
In my opinion, because for me, coaching has been an important topic for quite a while, and I have explored in many different aspects. in my opinion, if we don't talk and if we don't explore the human side, because for me there is it is not the same, but working with coaching means to explore our human sides. We will be stuck in some, let's say, we'll be more stuck in some other aspects. We will not have so much the space. Of course, there are other ways to explore our, let's say, inner worlds and what we would like to bring to the world. But in my opinion, it would be will be more stuck in our world. This is my honest opinion. And in my opinion, like as I said, the coaching is just one tool. There are many ways how we can support others in their developments. And of course, I say development, but like supporting other people. And coaching for me is helping during difficult times and just really supporting others. So if we don't talk, we will just exclude, let's say, a possibility to support others. So this is
I think it's also for just simply growing. Like when I see people who want to become leaders or people who are leaders, then a lot of times I see a lot of potential. And I ask myself, why don't these people ask for like the help to grow? The times are not hard. The people have really good teams. I think they can just simply do better, because like when experience comes, you see things like that at some point, but you also see that people don't seek like a coach or two, or like they switch the coaches. It's totally normal. And I would also recommend to frequently, like first of all, search a coach or a mentor, and second of all, also frequently switch the coach or the mentor, because everyone has like the different style, their different experiences, and therefore can add value and knowledge to the human, to the individual seeking knowledge. But the start of seeking knowledge should be happening first, right? And many people don't do this.
Yeah, this is amazing that you're mentioning, because I noticed that sometimes the people, so there where it stems at the very beginning, when the people start to realize that things depends on them in some way, and there is something beyond which they haven't explored, and they start to ask the question, okay, can you tell what is coaching? And they start to ask the questions first to themselves. They start to realize the questions, and later on they are turning potentially to a coach. Sometimes they go to their friends, to their, let's say, maybe partners, also to their managers, and they are trying to find the answers of their own questions before they actually search for external person to ask these questions. And about coaching is very interesting. Is one of the things is I like my very first coaching session that I had, like of a client. This person just needed to hear these questions. I mean, this is something also for other people. People need someone externally to ask these questions for them, and themselves to hear themselves answering to these questions. And these are the moments when, from the very beginning, when the realization of the inner self starts to happen. And then, of course, the person starts to be a little bit more self-aware from one step to another. But it is about the self-awareness. Sometimes it can happen very quickly. Sometimes it can take a little bit more time, like depending on how much a person is coachable. And here, one of the things is that there is one question that I really like: is everyone coachable? And usually the answer is that according to theory, everyone is coachable. So sometimes we say, okay, this person is not coachable, we cannot work with them. But it's not the case. It's just most of the time, like almost everyone is coachable. It really depends on the coach and the person that they're opening to. So it is very interesting topic also about coaches. So it's not about the ego is saying, okay, this person is not coachable. But no, this person is either not ready or they are not talking to the right manager or the coach at this moment. Maybe they need a little bit more time. So that's and everyone has different level of coachability. So this is the information.
It doesn't need to be that the coach is bad, because we're also talking about the trust level. And
Exactly.
a human doesn't build up trust the same with every human that they meet, right? So it starts with just looking in the face, and you have a certain amount of trust built, and then it starts with certain amount of like interaction, and then you also have a certain amount of trust built or not. And this is how it works. And Neli, when we talk about leaders, how would they assess their own communication as a leader, and how do they figure out they need to work on themselves? What do you suggest?
It's really from a person to person. People are different, but of course it can stem from inner knowing, like from let's say self-awareness. But of course it stems also from the external, let's say from cases of they heard a feedback, or they have 360 and unfortunately they're crying because someone was not evaluating them really well. And I have seen such examples, which is for this reason I'm a little bit concerned about 360s at moments, because it can bring also very negative feedback. We as humans, we have like the inner understanding about like the inner awareness and awareness about the others. So when the others are telling that something is not right, or we can correct, because we also need this external validation and correction. And then we also have let's say the society, like the common picture and where we fit. So we understand that maybe we just misfit. We feel well, but we misfit to something because we are not feeling well in a, let's say, executive settings, or we are not feeling well in usually not in a startup, but let's say in startup, or let's say a corporation, which also happens. Like we just feel that we are not fitting well. So it has different aspects of when and how we feel that we need a specific, let's say, we need to work with a coach maybe, or we need to work on our communication skills. So it's always awareness. So I mean, something is wrong. Someone told me this, so it comes to us. So it's always this self-awareness.
Absolutely. Oliver, do you have any thoughts on this?
I was just, smiling to my inner self because I observe two things. First, I see most of the leaders, they barely get much preparation to become a leader.
Yeah.
As I very often have the impression that most are thrown into such a situation from one day to another. You are a leader now, responsible for people and stuff. But what does it actually mean, and how to utilize this responsibility, how to, really live up to it? I think most of them don't get prepared much, especially in small and medium enterprises, but I would even say much corporates are also not leading by example here. And second, I just saw this the other day when I interviewed a candidate who is an individual contributor at the moment and wants to switch jobs to finally become a leader. He couldn't tell me why. So why do you want to become a leader? What makes you waking up every morning demanding this or wanting this? He couldn't tell me, and he's not an example. He's not the only one. It's actually a very rare example to hear a proper reason behind. And most of the things that I'm hearing then is, yeah, at the moment I'm already taking care of the interns, or I'm taking care of the apprentices. Yeah, nice, but that's absolute like entry level. How do you take care about them? Yeah, I help them to prepare for the exams. All right, but that, yeah, this is.
I would have loved to hear more about like how do they prepare the the people, because like one thing is to look. This is what I see right now in one of the teams that I coach is that there's a very capable developer who is also one of the controlling type. He is being seen as somewhat of a leader because he takes the task of the people and just does it then himself.
Nice.
And also the way he helps the people like come through the task is by like basically coding the entire projects himself. And like,
so it means he's assisting anyone but not leading.
And then there's another person coming in and has a totally different approach, setting up a bare bone of a project, teaching and doing code walkthroughs, teaching the people how does the stuff work, how do people can contribute, and also applying systems and methodologies on how to split up the tasks so that everyone can work at once on the stuff. And the person is also not just simply doing the task, but giving documentation and help and help in terms of like showing how this works and explaining how the things work. So a little bit of a coaching and training mix of style. And so the people who are involved in the story is they don't like the person who is doing who's like spreading the knowledge because it's different, and they need to work, so they need to think, they need to learn. It's a different thing. However, still, because even though it's difficult and they complain, they are still growing their skills visibly. They're growing their skills. They are growing. And that's the difference between someone who is taking the task and thinking of helping the people and someone who is like coachingly guiding the people into the pool.
Yeah, to live that. It is great to combine somehow the things, because on one side the leader has to be also a manager in some ways. And like I think also like returning back maybe a little bit back when we spoke that so many leaders are actually very young, or I mean young as leaders maybe, but sometimes they're really young because it's from my experience I have in my experience in Bulgaria, sometimes because the let's say the technological software development at one moment it has a few peaks of very quick growth. So there were people who were really young, like manager of two departments on 26, and just having this kind of these people do not have not only of course they're young in terms of software development, for instance, and don't know like how to be also managers in terms of teaching everyone in the team, but also not the years of experience of just how to handle different situations, how to manage themselves, all these things that comes a little bit with the experience, but on the other side they also bring great perspective. So it's a kind of also being also inclusive in terms of them. But there is a challenge of actually these people to understand where to focus on first in terms of their leadership style. And this is usually these people have this energy to do things very quickly from my experience, because I mean they became very quickly managers and they expect things to be very quickly. So it has to come from a perspective of also leadership training, just not pure coaching, but also training, communication, just meeting different leaders, like working, like just building up meetings, and also, let's say, exchange of different leaders. So just to have this, let's say, feedback from different people, and also understanding that they also need to develop themselves, not just because things became quickly doesn't mean that Sometimes we have to slow down, sometimes we have to be quicker, like we have different aspects. So it's very interesting to see because many people do need, and sometimes they need, but they don't know. Sometimes they need leadership training and coaching and mentoring. And they don't have the time as well because they have a lot of managerial tasks to handle. So it is a kind of maybe a strategy how, based on the different people, how to do and let's say to give a feedback to each other when it is possible. This also helps to support like being, but also being aware to make it in I believe in the soft feedbacks and the one which are really encouraging others. So all these things maybe help. Like, I mean, this is not exactly just coaching and only everything is coaching. It's a combination between different styles and ways to support people, how to, and then of course, like initially people are just starting with from the managerial side, how to survive, to start delegating, to make a task for others, to grow. And then after that, of course, start to lead, let's say, purpose and just bring innovation, more innovative things, not just mentoring, but also just, let's say, moving up in terms of their development and being better leaders.
Especially when, like, once the leaders, like especially the new leaders have started their task as a leader, they will be gaining the experience hands-on and eventually discover the superpower of a coach. Yeah, being a coach for the team. And this is also why we have the session here to talk about like what is coaching and how can a leader help the team while coaching. So eventually a leader will discover and hopefully also will learn how to coach other people, right?
Yeah. And this is exactly where the transformation happens. So when the person realizes that things depend on him or her, and they say like, okay, now it actually depends on me to support these people. And so this is the transformation moment before the self-actualization. And it is exactly where they start to say, okay, maybe I can be a little bit better as a coach to people and just trying to support. This is a beautiful realization for a person to grow as a leader.
I can definitely recommend for every leader to learn the coaching style. Like many times I have experienced also as a leader that when I when I just put myself out and the only thing that I do is like guiding the workshop. Yeah, I don't put in any content. Yeah, but the only thing that I do is structure and guiding the workshop. You have so many people who will maybe they come into the company new. They will have a lot of knowledge about the projects very quickly. Like in 2 hours, they will have the entire picture. And what you will also have is alignment with many people who otherwise have lots of discussions around that.
Yeah,
exactly.
It is really amazing, and this is it is amazing for the people when like they're adaptable, they learn from each other, and this is also like in a way of let's say transformative for the others. Like, I mean, when, for instance, like adding up to this that you mentioned, Birgit, as the example, is when, for instance, a leader doesn't always need, and the coaching leader doesn't always need to coach everyone one-to-one or just in a group. Sometimes they can actually bring this kind of, let's say, culture within the company, within their team, so that the people can learn from each other. And there you have the people who are just, they meet and they learn from each other very quickly because just the teams and culture allows this. So there is a coaching culture within the team.
Oli, what is your point on that?
I just thought being a leader and a coach in one person, or a manager and a coach in one person, that's actually pretty much, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Like if a day has just 8 hours, or I don't know, maybe more, it is a lot. And I thought of a football team, maybe. And I thought of a coach who was standing in front of all the players, coaching them on strategies of how to achieve the goal, developing them from a mediocre athlete to a really good one, talking about tactics, putting players on the ground, off the ground, stuff like this. This is already a lot. If you want to do it properly, if you're really interested in letting your people grow from A to B. If you then have to be a manager as well, so not like providing the playground, providing the stadium, filling it with people to make sure also the salaries of the players are getting paid. This is a lot. I'm wondering sometimes how to put that into a realistic agenda and a realistic expectation also. And I'm wondering where I would set the priorities. And I can even see myself in when times get tough, I would probably look more on the managerial side. So assigning resources, for example, setting clear priorities, and the development of people would fall short then.
What's your thought on this, Neli?
Yeah, so it's very good example. It's actually in the difficult times we have to go to basics. It's actually exactly the thing, and it's also based on the Barrett model. Like, I mean, like a leader has to be a manager has to be a leader. So saying this, like if the person is speaking only about the purpose and doesn't take care of the basics, so this is not going to work as well. So it has to be a really great balance, and I believe that we shall be aware of the different moments and be flexible. Like as leaders, like a leader has to be flexible and to understand. And even when it comes for the difficult, like let's say, okay, COVID, and we have like all of a sudden everything changes. People are afraid. And imagine leading a team in such kind of situation, or something else, like some other situation, difficult situation. So a good leader will be also the manager who will take care of the basics, remind others to take care of the basics, but also will say, okay, people, don't forget why we are doing that. What is our why in this situation? So what would you like to, like, let's say, not to exactly, we know what we want to achieve, but the purpose, the values are just in difficult moments, these things still like the highest level of the, let's say, according to this model, like of a purpose-driven leadership needs to be there, and still there should be this glue, even when we take care of the basics. So this is maybe my view. It can be just, how to say, it can be just the glue, or I mean, just one drink to have, like let's say as a metaphor when we speak about the glass of water even, but it has to be there so that just to make people feel more cared for when the purpose is not forgotten.
When we talk about teams and coaches, that's actually quite interesting. Sports is, and esports is one of the reasons why I became a leader, because I have like developed my leadership skills quite early on. You know, in esports, World of Warcraft.
I knew it. Like, it makes so much sense. Now I'm connecting the dots.
Warcraft, leading a team to the top World 100. That is so competitive. And now there's the second dot. If you want to type myself, then my type would be like 50% socializer and 50% competitor. So, so I fit very well in team sports because I like to compete with teams. Alone, it doesn't make sense for me. And the same also applies to normal sports. I like volleyball as well. And this is something that you cannot achieve as a single player. You need in order to be very effective, you need to defend the ball, you need to set the ball, and then you need to attack. That's the most efficient thing that you can do in the sports. Possibly we can find like similar things in soccer and football. And this reminds me on like how we discussed wordings here, because what I've noticed on the people who are coaching and training the teams, they do a lot of training. So they teach people how to do the sports, and they don't really put themselves out when putting in. So they have a lot of input for the team to tell them how to play this game, and also how to play this game effectively, especially when it comes to the strategy. I think the only time they would be coaching is when there's an actual game, because then they're like more right, and they have maybe some tips, but they basically leave most of the time the team alone with the trust that they can handle the game. Yeah. And that's quite interesting. And if you and the audience are like watching your favorite sports team, also watch the trainer. That's so interesting. This is what I do.
To come back to your story, Birgit, of these two types of developers, the one that acts like an assistant, so doing the job of the others, and the one who guides and develops and whatnot. Like, to compare it to a trainer of volleyball or football or whatever, the trainer doesn't jump on the playground to get it running. It just doesn't make sense, and it's also not allowed, which is why this assistant.
This may be allowed in certain leagues. I don't know if every league, but it is definitely allowed as to be a player and the trainer.
Okay, let's see this as an edge case.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which also implies that if you really want to train people properly, this might be a full-time job as well, and to do whatever on the side.
This brings me to the. Sorry that I interrupted. This brings me to my point, my last one. A trainer cannot just simply walk into the field, because we had also the question of like the discrepancies between like a manager and the coach, and I think it's also an interesting question of leaders inside organizations who are disciplinary leaders, but also then take the role of a coach. Because the discrepancy here comes in because the disciplinary leader who is doing 360-degree feedback, who is doing like the one-on-one and like hiring and firing, it has a lot of power, especially the firing one, or like just saying that someone should do a task. That is a powerful thing in Germany to do, because it is like some law that someone needs to fulfill. And then you're suddenly not a disciplinary leader. You walk into the room and you introduce yourself as the coach for today, and the people just don't believe you.
Very interesting. Yes, because they say, okay, if I'm going to trust this person, like I'll be very careful what I'm saying, because I don't want to say something wrong, for instance. Exactly. So this is the place where usually an external leader, external coach enters, because there is a balance between actually having like the leader, the disciplinary leader, like act as a coach, but they do not do exactly like a very pure coaching, as the pure coaching, like coaching session, but they just somehow implement coaching in their style, like even through gamification. I really like this example for let's say the playgrounds in terms of a sport, but also let's say they are just implementing and supporting, but at the same time they are just getting out when there should be, for instance, a trainer or let's say a coach enter and support the development of their team. So maybe that's the problem, because sometimes the disciplinary leaders can be a little bit also higher, and they can be also some other team leads below them. So it's this kind of supporting the leader, or let's say manager supporting managers, like in this way. And I wanted to add also this one. It's very interesting because, for instance, like this is my weakness, that I'm not a competitive person. And for me, the games, everyone has, like as a person, as a leader, has different style of leadership. Of course, this is something built up from the society, from our experience, like from our personality and so on. But this is something that I have observed, and it turned out like, it's a weakness, and I prefer to be this one, like, this is a weakness, don't develop it, it takes too much energy. So from this type of weaknesses. So for instance, my team has the capacity, I don't bring them any competitiveness between them, just supporting them to complement each other. So actually the setting is like this, that actually if 3 people are working together on a project and the project is successful, the 3 of them get the award, not the one who did the best or did something quicker. This is my way how I have tackled this, because then I have represented it for my team, and it's still well performing. It's just working well, and people are just bringing the results, and so we're happy. But it is something that I have observed. But on the other hand side, we also have a great, let's say, sense of humor within the team. And as a leader, when the leader is listening and trying to support others and leave the space for them to support each other. So this is the place, the moment when we allowed people to be themselves. So just to bring their humor to a working place and just be a little bit more playful when there is a need of a game or support. So these different types of and styles are really amazing to see how they work, and potentially they complement each other, like in different teams and settings. This is what I wanted to share.
That's nice. Do you have anything to add, Ollie?
No, actually not.
Yeah. Then let's try to come to the next question. How do you train yourself to listen beyond the surface to what's not being said?
Yeah, this is like listening is one of my favorite coaching competences, and when I started for my coaching practice, I had one exercise that I needed to do, actually a couple of exercises that I needed to do as a coach. First of all, having 5 minutes of small meditation before each coaching session. And this had the purpose of trying to switch off like my thoughts, my emotions, like everything which I had before this session, in order to enter in the session and be completely present for the person. This is in a way extreme when it comes to leadership settings, because we don't have all the time one-to-one, but this is just a small practice of actually, first of all, leaving a space and trying to exclude the emotions of the person in order to understand the other person. Second, leaving like sometimes 2 seconds, the rule of 2 seconds, really to leave the person, after asking a question, the person to figure out their answer. And this is the moment of like great things are happening if there is a silence. So we use the silence in listening. We also observe about emotions, like some, let's say, movement of the body, also the emotions which are seen. We hear some words about the person, like, what if they feel something. So it has different levels, but one of the most important is to manage ourselves and say, okay, now I try to connect to the other person. I'm curious to the other person. I'm there for the other person, and I leave my things behind. And then this is where the biggest, like the deepest listening happens.
You say you need like only 5 minutes for it. Did you train before?
At the beginning, yeah. With the time, it was my first experience with meditation. This was how I started. But later on, I started to explore meditation. Of course, I'm not meditating. No one has 1 hour. Later, I explore it for my personal development. But for this one, you need exactly only 5 minutes. And sometimes even just super quick moment of really closing, even like sometimes closing your eyes or just sitting and say, okay, I'm with Birgit and Ollie today, for instance, and just execute everything that I have in my mind and my heart at the moment.
I think this is something that is really recommended as well, especially for every leader who is in a fast-paced environment, to start training meditation, so that one is enabled to do this just simply in 5 minutes. Because the more often you do this, the better your mind. And by the way, it has also physical results inside the mind. The mind will switch faster to the state of calmness.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so interested in why do you take just 5 minutes? That's incredible.
It's just the practice from the beginning, and just even a few minutes are helping a lot. And it's really about the slowing down. So it is amazing.
Exactly. We have our last question. The last question is the signature question. What was your most positive interview experience?
As a recruiter, it's very hard to answer because I had a lot of nice experience in meeting amazing people along the way. But I had experience with someone who it was such a great experience if I was speaking to a friend, and later on I managed to hire this person. Even though it was initially not the exact match that we were looking for. So for me, the experience, because I'm focused on the experience for the person, from the other side, but the experience when I have the experience of myself of feeling great during the interview, this is actually my aha moment. I say, okay, it was actually a great conversation, even though from a coach, I'm here to interview this person, but I had a really great time. So this is a good sign for me. Yeah.
I want to add something because it just happened 2 hours before our session. I'm actually quite proud of a candidate who, in lack of other words, had the balls to step out of an interview today after he discovered a red flag that he didn't communicate before, and also the client didn't communicate before. And at this point, after 40 minutes, he realized, this is a red flag for me. I don't want to negotiate about this. It doesn't make sense to further talk, because if I would get hired here, knowing that this red flag exists, you can count the weeks and the month, but I won't be here for long. The client was quite irritated how blunt, straightforward the candidate has communicated, but after all, he also agreed it doesn't make sense to sugarcoat something that cannot be hidden anyways. And it's actually quite smart if you think it through, because as a candidate and as the hiring company, I mean, after all, lifetime is limited. So, and then that's the only thing that is limited. Almost anything else you can buy with money, maybe except health and love. But if lifetime is limited, why spending it with someone who doesn't want to be there?
Can we ask what the red flag was? I'm so curious.
It was not in tech. It was, I have 2 businesses, and one is about supporting property management companies. And lots of buildings in Germany, they suffer from weak technical conditions. They need to be modernized. And this is, as the leading property manager who is responsible for such buildings, it's a nightmare. There's so much to manage, so much to think of, and so many people to communicate to and to coordinate. This is a major challenge. And if you want to accept this major challenge, you want to know that this one is existing. And if it would come up as a surprise, I would be not amused too. So it's quite smart to know about the boundaries, to communicate them, and to ask for them. It turned out that this red flag was so important for the candidate because it would have meant overtime. Why? Because he also lacks the ability to say no. He was not aware that this is one of the major challenges that he's actually facing. So this would be something he could learn maybe in coaching sessions, but he knew about his red flag at least, and he was able to communicate it and to identify it.
Yeah, that's a very good example. It is about self-awareness. There is where everything starts. So he was able to not to take the job which was potentially not the right for them.
Now he would need to take the next step. Otherwise, he would be lost in a vicious cycle of identifying traps and red flags everywhere.
Things like this remind me on my first leadership role, where I was completely overwhelmed because, yes, we had a really nice talk and it was like we were kind of friends or something. But I didn't notice the chaos inside the company. And there was absolute chaos. And I didn't have mentorship, I didn't have coaching, and it was my first time leadership, right? As I said, like I come with experience from the gaming, yeah. And the nice experience that I had before as a developer, being inside a really nice cross-functional team and learning all the processes and stuff like that. So I looked where I could apply structure and guidance and processes and things like that. And then suddenly I scaled a company.
David, what you've just said, and also Neli, I think that can be really a trap, right? Having a nice conversation that sounds wonderful, but I mean, let's be frank here. I work in this business for 10 years as a recruiter, and what you learn there is to have such a nice conversation. This is one of the major things that is happening.
Yeah.
It's not just selecting people, it's also to make people feel good, to make them talk and to make them listen to. Of course, also other things. The nice conversation itself can also be very misleading because it might imply for some people that the conversation was so nice to the recruiter that this is also like the normal level of how we communicate inside a company. And this is what I do differently, even as a headhunter who gets paid when someone gets hired. I don't sugarcoat stuff. Like, there's no point. It doesn't make the candidates happy. It doesn't make the clients happy. So the least I can do is actually painting the picture a little bit darker than it actually is, to make sure there are no major surprises, just little ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is also what I think is important for candidates to know. Recruiters are usually people who know how to talk to people, how to listen to them. It's even more important than to ask straightforward questions. And this is actually even more appreciated if, as a candidate, you ask straightforward questions, because it shows that you're prepared, that you're interested, and you know your fucking boundaries.
Yeah. This is very well. Yeah, very well said.
With that being said, it was really nice to talk to you, Neli. I learned a lot, and there's also a lot of awareness has grown in myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure from my side too. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for the audience. We will see each other next time in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.